Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Heather and today I'm going to do something slightly different and share with you all of the films that I ideally would like to watch in this year. I used to go to the movies all the time, well not all the time, but quite frequently. And I would rent movies from the library. I loved a good movie night. But since the pandemic, I have not been back to an actual movie theater. And quite honestly, while I'm around the house, or if it's late at night and I'm getting stuff done, I don't tend to put on films anymore. I tend to put on, quite honestly, really low quality television series so that it just sounds like I have other people around. It's a calming effect. And I don't really have to pay attention to it while I do those other tasks that I need to do. But there are a ton of films that I still want to watch, so I'm trying to make it an actual priority to watch as many of these films as I can over the course of the year. I'm not holding myself to a certain number, and there's a wide enough variety that it should cater to any mood that I happen to be in, I hope. I'm sharing these with you for two reasons. Firstly, so that I have some accountability to actually stick to this list. And number two, because quite honestly, a lot of these films are based on books, or at least pair nicely with bookish interests as well. So the first film that I want to watch in 2022 is Promising Young Woman. No, I still have not seen this film, and I really want to, honestly, because I love Carey Mulligan. She is one of my favorite actresses ever since seeing her in Northanger Abbey. So I am desperate to see this film. I'm just waiting to feel brave enough to brave how potentially gory it might be. But I know it's won great critical acclaim, and I trust her to do an amazing job with whatever script she's given. In fact, it's one of my goals to watch more of her backlist of films as well, so you'll see her name crop up in some of these other films that I'm going to talk about in just a moment. The second film that I want to watch is Kate and Leopold, which by today's standards is quite an old film, but I have been meaning to watch this since I was a teenager, and I still haven't, so it's high time that I get around to it. And it stars Meg Ryan and Hugh Jackman. I believe Hugh Jackman is a man from somewhere in the 19th century. It might be the Regency era, but I might be mistaken. And he somehow gets transported to the modern day. And he meets Meg Ryan, and they form a romance, and it's about, old traditional courtship values in the modern world, and how do those fit together? Where do they fit? Where do they not fit? It looks really cute. It's Hugh Jackman. And also, fun fact, Meg Ryan went to my former high school. The next film that I want to see is In the Heights. I have been desperate to see this since it was announced in late 2019, and I just haven't gotten around to it yet. I love the Broadway musical that it was based on, and I haven't actually seen the full musical, but I do own the script and I have listened through to the soundtrack, which gives me most of the plotline that I would need to know. It looks really wonderful. I trust Lin-Manuel Miranda to have done a great job with whatever he's given. And honestly, if he couldn't play Usnavi anymore, I think Anthony Ramos was also a wonderful choice. The next film that I hope to watch is The Last Duel. I want to watch this because it's a medieval period piece, and supposedly it's based on a true story as well, of the last time that a duel was used to settle legal proceedings in France, I believe. That sounds really interesting. Next, I have two films that can be found on BritBox. The first is Lady Windermeres Fan. I have seen The Importance of Being Earnest. I read part of The Portrait of Dorian Gray, but I haven't read any other Oscar Wilde. So what I'm hoping to do is to possibly read Lady Windermeres Fan as one of my Victober books, and then watch this film afterwards. And the second one is The Other Bolin Girl. And no, this was not the one that got a major movie release in the late 2000s. That one was terrible. I did go to see it, but they got so many things wrong that I couldn't stand it. This one, however, looks really, really interesting. It's a much quieter film. There are a lot of moments where the characters get to talk directly to the camera. There's very little background music even. It's a very subtle film, and I feel like that might suit the plot of Philippa Gregory's book a little bit better. So I'm really intrigued to see how this one turns out. Next, I would like to see the film A Royal Scandal, The Royal Scandal. I can't remember what the article is, but Royal Scandal in any case. I have no idea what this one is about, but it looks like a really interesting period piece from the early 18th century, and that's one of my favorite time periods, so I am intrigued. I would also love to watch the film The Bookshop, and this is about a young woman who opens a bookshop in a small town, but the people of the town start to protest and claim that she is stocking highly inappropriate things, and it's about the power of books and the lengths we will go to protect books, which sounds perfect and wonderful. I do want to read the book first, however. The book was written by Penelope Fitzgerald, I want to say, and I can get it as an ebook through my library. So once I have read it, I would love to watch this film. I would also love to watch Mary Shelley, starring Elle Fanning, I want to say. I have been wanting to see this film since the last time I went to visit my friend Amanda. We were curled up on her couch watching the trailer thinking, that looks amazing, we both need to see this as English majors, and her son was an infant at that point. Her son just turned 4, so I need to get on watching this film. I also need to see Parasite. This swept the 2020 Oscars. I am really intrigued by Korean media, and it sounds like a really interesting revenge plot. I just haven't gotten around to seeing it yet, so by putting it on this list, hopefully I will be able to finally watch it and find out what I think. I also put Nightmare Alley on my list, and I'm not entirely sure what the plot of this one is, but given that it's Guillermo del Toro and he does a lot of gothic things, I think it's best to go into it blind and just let the story unfold in front of you. I loved Crimson Peak. I loved Pan's Labyrinth when I watched it in Spanish class in high school, so I am deeply intrigued by this one, but I definitely need to be in a very safe and happy mood before I watch it. Next, there's the film Falling for Figaro, which, as far as I know, has not been highly advertised, such that the plot details are still kind of foggy even to me. But I believe it's about a woman falling in love with opera and perhaps beginning a career in opera despite not having a lot of training. I might be making that bit up, but it's about a love of opera, so I'm intrigued to see what that looks like. Speaking of films based on other pieces of theater, I would also love to see Tick, Tick, Boom. Because, again, Lin-Manuel Miranda was in charge of it, and I trust him to do a wonderful job. And because I get to see Andrew Garfield sing, which I sort of did in Angels in America, but I would be very intrigued to see how he does in an actual musical. And because it's the story of Jonathan Larson, who wrote the musical Rent. And I was lucky enough to see Rent live on Broadway right before it closed. So I feel like this would be a nice way to close that circle, as it were. Speaking of current films gaining critical acclaim, I would also love to see Belfast. The cast looks amazing. Kenneth Branagh as a director is wonderful. Plus, it also stars David Tennant's daughter. And I am old enough to remember when she was born, so I am thrilled to see what she does alongside the rest of the cast in this film. Plus, it's a black and white film, which I feel like, especially among my students, get a very bad rap, but I love them, so I am thrilled that they're making a comeback. I would also like to see The Power of the Dog. I know nothing about this plot. It looks vaguely Western, and I know that it's a two-person cast, which is always really interesting to see, and it's Benedict Cumberbatch. Here on BookTube we talk about auto-buy authors. Benedict Cumberbatch is an auto-watch actor for me. Next on my list is The Dig. I read the book upon which this was based almost a year ago now, and I still have not watched the film. Again, this stars Carey Mulligan alongside Ray Fiennes and Lily James and I believe Johnny Flynn, and it looks fantastic. I didn't love the book mainly because I didn't love the writing style. However, the film would remove that narrative voice, so I have a feeling I would like the film much better than I liked the book. I would also love to see the newer adaptation of Rebecca, also starring Lily James. Mainly because I don't often get along with Daphne du Maurier as an author, especially her endings. I find her endings very murky and very unclear, and that's really unsatisfying to me as a reader. So I'm hoping by watching the film, I can gain some clarity and understand why so many people love Rebecca. The next film is Mudbound, which is another film I've been meaning to watch since 2018 when I read the book by Hilary Jordan. This is another one that stars Carey Mulligan, among others, and it's the story of, I believe, two couples in the South in the 1930s, I want to say. And one is a white couple who owns a farm, and the other is a black couple. And the various economic things that happen to both of them, as well as the ways in which they are drawn together, and also the social constructs that tear them apart. Another Carey Mulligan film I have been meaning to see for even longer is Collateral. This came out on Netflix in 2016 or 2017, and I still have not gotten around to watching it. It's a contemporary piece about the police, possibly the Secret Service, some sort of government police unit who is dealing with a case that involves Islamophobia, potential terrorism, but not from the places that you would expect, and how that all plays out in the legal system, and it just looks really, really well done. Another film I have been meaning to watch is The White Tiger. I have the book on my TBR for March, so hopefully after I read it, I will be able to watch this film. Another Indian film I would love to see is Delhi 6. This has been around for a long time now. I found out about it in college through my Bollywood dance group, but I believe it is the story of two young people who fall in love, but it's also the story of the split between the Hindu community and the Muslim community in New Delhi, and a young woman who wants to become an actress, but her parents want her to marry, and a young man who has been living and studying in America for a long time, but who moves back to Delhi and is just fed up with the community that he finds and is struggling to find a way to heal that community. It looks really beautiful, but also very sad. Next on Netflix, I have the film Lady J, which honestly I don't know much about the plot. I know that it is a period drama, again from the 18th century, so it automatically went on my list. Plus, I believe it's a French film, and I've been meaning to watch more contemporary French films ever since I saw Portrait of a Girl on Fire? Portrait of a Woman on Fire? that film in 2020, and I absolutely adored it. So I'm hoping that this one will be just as good. Another French film I would love to watch is Benedetta, which is the story, the apparently true story, of a young nun somewhere in Italy in the medieval era who experienced incredible visions and thus rose to great heights within the social order of the nuns to which she belonged. However, there was also some scandal in there. There may have been a female-female romance in her past. There were various political machinations to cut the amount of power that she was receiving and to disprove the validity of her visions. It looks really beautifully done and really interesting, and I can't wait to watch it. Another film that wasn't very highly advertised here in the US, but that looks wonderful, is Misbehavior. And this film stars Keira Knightley and Gugu Mbatha-Raw, among others. I hope I'm pronouncing her name correctly. And it's the story of the Miss World? Or Miss Universe, one of them, competition in the 1960s, possibly early 1970s, where a group of feminist protesters were trying to disrupt the competition in order to showcase how misogynistic it is and its unfair, for lack of a better word, treatment of women. However, it also emphasizes some of the candidates' perspectives, where some of these young women are the first young women of color appearing on a beauty pageant in a predominantly white country, representing their countries, and how wonderful that is and what an opportunity that is, and why they don't see this competition as being utterly demeaning, because it gives them opportunities that they have never had before. So I love the balance of perspective in that, and I would love to see how that plays out long term. I have heard nothing but good things about Knives Out, and I love a good Agatha Christie television series, so this looks very much like that, but with a darkly quirky twist to it. And that sounds wonderful, so bring it on. Also, speaking of darkly quirky, I would love to see Blythe Spirit. This was another one that wasn't terribly well advertised here in the US, but I would love to see it nonetheless. It stars Dan Stevens, Isla Fisher, and Judi Dench, among others. And Dan Stevens is a writer whose first wife has recently died, and he has remarried, but he is now experiencing writer's block. And at a seance, this medium accidentally summons the spirit of his ex-wife, which drives him crazy. But no one else can see her. But he is suddenly able to write again. It turns out his first wife was his muse. And how does he reconcile having both of his wives in his life at the same time? Especially when only one of them can be visible to other people. It just looks quirky and wonderful, and it's Noel Coward, so it's bound to be hilarious. Another film I would love to see, which in the US is available through National Theatre at Home, is Ian McKellen on Stage. And this is a film of his one-man show, which he toured around the UK, where I believe he just talks about many of the great roles that he has had over the course of his career, perhaps performing some monologues from some of them, bringing out important props, talking about his experiences, bringing members of the audience on stage with him. It looks really, really cute, and I can't wait to see it. Hi everyone, Editing Heather here, realizing that I didn't actually tell you what the next film was going to be. The next film I want to watch is My Son. Another film that I feel like didn't get enough hype here in the US, but it looks wonderful. It's the story of a father who is divorced, whose son goes missing from a camping trip, and he then is trying to solve the crime as the police are solving the crime. What I love about this, and what I think makes it really unique, is that James McAvoy was not given a script. So he is finding out all of the information at the same time that the audience is. And he had no idea what was going to happen next, so all of his reactions are real and visceral, and that sounds amazing. I should mention it also stars Claire Foy as his ex-wife, and the two of them together must be a wonderful combination. And the last film on my list that I would love to see is Encanto. Again, it's gotten great critical acclaim. It's Lin-Manuel Miranda. It's Disney. I'm a Spanish teacher, for heaven's sake, and I have not seen this film yet, and I need to find out what everyone is talking about. Plus, the heroine wears glasses. That is huge. You still don't see that often in films, and I don't know why not. My 5-year-old self would have been thrilled at that. So there you have it. That is the list of films that I would love to see. If you think I should push any of these higher up my list, please let me know in the comments down below. If you hated one of these films, please don't tell me yet. I will do a wrap-up at the end of the year to tell you how many of these films I actually got to and what I thought of them. So that's the point where we can compare, and if I also hated it, that is totally fine. But please don't destroy my excitement for these films yet. Are there any films that you are really excited to see, or have you heard about any that are coming out this year that you think I would really enjoy? Please leave me messages in the comments down below, and until next time, be safe, be well, and happy reading and watching. Bye everyone.